Hello Naps, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about moral sense theory and also we're going to be talking about camouflage makeup. So let's get ready to rumble. Today we're doing things a little differently here. We're not going to be doing beauty makeup, we are going to be doing camouflage makeup or illusion makeup, which is a form of special effects makeup. All of this will just be used with paint. You can totally use eyeshadow if you don't have a body safe paint. So let's get to it and have a little fun. There are a ton of really cool illusion makeup artists out there. Mimbles on Instagram, she uses her sleep paralysis to inspire her illusions. She typically doesn't do camouflaging alone. Usually she uses more optical illusion effects, but sometimes that does involve hiding certain elements or camouflaging them into the background so that they don't take up the whole picture. Water-based paint is easiest to work with because if you make a mistake, it comes off pretty easily. And once you start, taking a break is not such a good idea, or moving positions is not such a good idea. Because I don't know how many times I moved my hand a little bit in this and then all of a sudden I had to realign everything with my camera to make sure that the illusion still stood. So with moral sense theory, otherwise known as moral sentimentalism, David Hume was one of the founders of this movement. The biggest takeaway is that this is the theory that there is an ethical intuition, that inside each of us, we all have this sense of knowing what is right and what is wrong, almost like the sixth sense. Instead of it being I see dead people, it's more like I know right from wrong. Now, as we know, there are a lot of people in the world who don't have all of their five base senses, so it stands to reason that there's going to be some people who might not have the ethical intuition. The people who lack this ethical intuition would be sociopaths, but we're not here to talk about them today. We're here to talk about the moral sense theory. So we're going to look at the distinctions between morality and immorality, and psychologists have been debating this for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, because it is curious why some people feel certain things are wrong and why other people don't. Things to keep in mind when you're doing this type of makeup. Color matching is really difficult. Highlighting and shadowing are actually different colors. They're not just adding white or black to something. Patterns are so much easier when you're starting out versus solid colors, and that sounds ridiculous. In order to really make sure that solid patterns or solid non-patterned pieces work, you have to make sure that you don't have any shadow. You have to have the right lighting, and it can be really tricky. Patterns are a little bit more forgiving when you mess up, and sometimes you can only see them if you look very closely. There's kind of two sides to the moral sense theory here. The one side, which they typically focus on sentimentalism as their title, view the nature of moral facts and beliefs. It's more of a metaphysical view on how things work. The other side uses the title moral sense theory as the nature of justifying moral beliefs. So one is whether something is moral or isn't, and why we believe so, and the other focuses on the justification behind why something is good or something is not good. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if that doesn't, or if you are a psychologist and have heard differently, also totally cool, because I am not a professional here, as you naps know. Perspective is everything. Gotta be a little bit forgiving. Another thing to keep in mind is whatever your perspective is, if it's a camera or if it's people standing in a particular location, make sure to double check from that point to make sure that your lines still look right. I don't know how many times I've gone through and tried to do camouflage makeup and I drew a line, I thought it was straight, and I looked in the camera, and because you're drawing it on a three-dimensional surface and you're drawing two-dimensional lines, it just looks bendy all over the place. That being said, sometimes when you draw a bendy line, because you're looking through a monitor, for example, it looks completely straight, and that's just because of the way your curvature of your skin works mixed with the lighting and the angle and the camera lens. Be patient with yourself throughout all of this. There's also a lovely little hybrid section between the sentimentalism side and the moral sense theory side. And they talk about how moral facts are and how one claims to be justified in believing them and how they're bound up in human emotions. So that's kind of a fun, interesting thing. There's actually an institute called the Seven Pillars Institute, which, I'm not 100% sure. I couldn't find a lot of current up-to-date information on them, but they had a really good little section about the basis of morality. So the basis of morality, according to them, is intuitive perception of what is moral or not. Basically, the key tenets of moral sense theory or sentimentalism is that morals are driven from a sense of sympathy. So we put ourselves in others' shoes, we feel good or bad about their situation, and we judge the circumstances around that situation to be either good or bad. This kind of holds true when we look at how some people view authority figures as good, some people view authority figures as bad. So if you have a teacher who helped you grow, you might have a very positive outlook and a strong sense of moral good that comes from being a teacher. But if you are a kid who was picked on by teachers and told they weren't going to amount to anything by a teacher, then you might think that teachers aren't very good. And that's an example. So when we see others suffer, sympathy makes us disapprove of the methods that are being used. So when we see somebody who is thriving, then we tend to approve of those methods as well. Now in this paint, I don't do a great job of matching my colors. I have a lot of issues where they're not quite right, or I didn't notice that there was a lot of green. And through the camera, it looks like I have perfect visibility. But I filmed that on a really sunny day where my eyes, even though the camera's eye looks fine, my eyes were having a hard time seeing the lines, seeing the particular shades, and seeing the nuances. 2008 New York Times, Steven Pinker wrote about the moral instinct, which we are all born with universal moral grammar that forces us to analyze human action in terms of moral structure. So he based this off of the idea that as babies, we don't know grammar, but we have this thing inside of us that analyzes grammatical patterns in speech, in language, to start discerning what meaning that comes from that. So in his theory, we also have that innate analyzation of moral situations as well. So we start looking at what things cause sympathy, what things are causing this apathy towards a situation that a person is being put into, and then us and our baby brains then kind of work our morals around that. And so we are building our own moral grammar book in a way. And I'm curious what you guys think of this. Or do you think that morality is something that you're born with? Do you think that we all have this innate thing and maybe some people have learned the wrong rules? I mean, this is all about right and wrong here, but this is still about your opinion too. That's what I'm asking for right now. So I'm just curious what you think of this philosophy. When we look at it in regards to the camouflage makeup that we are doing today, we see a lot of hidden layers. We see a lot of getting your base skin, right? You get you prepped and ready. So nice, clean, dry skin. And we see the building up of layers. So the applying of rules to blend into society. As we build our morality up, we become more ingrained in our society. We become more in tune with what's going on around us. So in effect, we blend in with the world around us. So that's what we're doing here. We are blending in all of our things. We are working on our perception of them. We are making sure that our perception matches others' perceptions, which can be like a reflection on your own values. If you see that your values don't reflect well on somebody else's, it might be a time to reflect on where those values came from, how we got there, and how to move forward from there. And it's not necessarily about who is right and who is wrong, but the values themselves. Do they hold true to your expectation of them? Do they hold true to your sympathies? Do they hold true to your own moral compass? If you see X idea as good and another person sees X idea as bad, upon reflection later, using their mindset Can you understand their perspective? Does it challenge your own perspective? Or does their perspective seem only applicable in that one small instance where they formed that concept? It's all pretty neat. It's interesting stuff. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this talk today. All right, I look forward to seeing you here next Thursday. We'll come and party on my channel like always. Don't forget to drop a comment in the bottom to tell me your opinions on morality and if there's any other philosophies that you would love me to talk about. And yes, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. Ding the notification bell to get alerted to when I will be posting next. Have a great day. All right, Naps. Bye.